Hi.
Hey, Christian, good to see you. Yeah.
My Korean name is Cho Young-do.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
It's actually a really interesting Korean name.
Yes.
Because it's typical of the difficulty of the Korean language for a foreigner. In this case, like Koreans and foreigners.
Yes.
Koreans think there are two types of people in the world.
Yeah.
Hanguk saram, Koreans, and Weguk saram, foreigners.
Saram, yeah.
So it doesn't matter where they are.
And also because of the after Korean War, there's American
Right.
stay back
Yeah.
to stay back for and still until
Yeah.
American army stay.
Yeah.
So that's why when they see the Caucasian, there's a
right.
미국 사람.
미국 사람, that's right.
American
That's right.
미국 사람. And also they're willing to learn English,
That's
desperate to learn English.
Yeah.
That's why if you approach it with a few Korean
that's
language
right.
here, they just open up the heart.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing was, I was flying back to Australia recently, and I flew into we flew into Beijing, and I got off a plane, and there were two Korean girls, and I was transiting to Sydney, and they were transiting to Frankfurt, and they were looking at this big screen of names, and it was English or Chinese, so they couldn't see their destination. And so I asked them where they were going, and they were like, "Wow, you can speak Korean." And then I said, "Oh, come on, let's go. We got to go and go through the transfer gate." And as we're walking there, I said to them, "I said, Wegul sana," to them, and they're like, "No, we're Korean. We're And then they realised they were foreigners. So a funny experience, like for Koreans, always foreigners. I'm not sure if you guys sort of understand that, but I think it's such a telling aspect of identity. Korean identity is such a strong.
Yeah, very strong.
It's one of the, I think, of all countries, it's one of the strongest. Really, you guys are really clear on who you are, you know. But listen, this is day, this is the 8th of January. Which is the what I'm calling the 8th day of 100 days to harvest, talking about the story of friendship between Australia and Korea. And we were just talking about your business in restaurants, and then we were talking about the aspect of strangers, like how Koreans sometimes can keep their distance from foreigners because of their aversion to speaking English if they don't know.
Yes, it's not because they are not friendly.
That's right.
But they're just scared about speaking English.
Yeah.
That's why they're very hard to open the relationship.
Yeah.
But if you reach out with their language,
that's right.
In Korean,
you know, that's so important.
They open up the heart. Because one of my friends living in Dromana.
Dromana, right?
You know the Dromana? Dromana
Yeah, I was going to change hands. Yeah.
And his family actually are in fish and chip shop.
All right.
There, but he cannot stop going back to Korea every year.
Really?
Because he's also teaching English occasionally.
All right.
He's
Australian, right? Great.
He's teaching about a couple of months then. The Korean culture.
Yeah.
They actually respect the teacher.
Yeah.
And especially if you are a Caucasian, English speaking Caucasian, they are open up very easy, and they pay for you, and they loyal to you. Give you royalty.
Yeah.
So he cannot stop going back to Korea.
It's
it's
such interesting. I think this thing of why Australians are friends with Koreans is one side of the story. The other side is this challenge that Koreans have in Korea and sometimes in Sydney, opening up to the foreigner, to the Australian, basically. But actually, we've just been at the Scots Church.
Yes.
And this is a particular interesting landmark for the friendship between Australia and Korea.
Yes.
Because Joseph Henry Davies, who was the
first missionary of
Australia, he and his sister went to Korea in 1889. He was ordained in this church.
Yep.
I think originally he was Anglican, and then because he opened his school or something, or because
there's Caulfield Grammar.
Caulfield Grammar, that's right.
He's the founder of Caulfield Grammar.
But he had to get ordained in the Methodist Church for some reason.
No.
But Yeah. So it's interesting. It was interesting reflecting on there that once upon a time, 120 how many years ago, this guy who was at the time only 31 it would have been at the time. He was ordained, preparing to go to Korea. Really young guy who'd done a lot in his life. Yeah, and then went to Korea and sadly caught smallpox and pneumonia and died. Let's go turn this camera around because my arm's getting tight. But there we go.
So actually, that is kind of a starting of the Australia Presbyterian Church to send a missionary to the South Korea. And still they have Scots Church have a strong relationship with the Daegu, Gyeongbuk area.
Okay.
There's many of the Daegu, Gyeongbuk area actually evangelized by the Australia Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
And we do really appreciate. And actually, the reason we could use this venue, this church, because one of our church member, the guy I told you, the Kotra, and he wrote the text letter with any strings attached. He just wrote the senior pastor. We do really appreciate for your evangelizer and your love to our countries, and his grandma was saved during the time, and his family became a Christian, and we owe this Presbyterian Church a lot, and that's why we want to thanks to them. And suddenly, about a month after, we got the email from the senior pastor. We're looking for some people to use our church after we finish the service.
It's very interesting because that's an interesting story of friendship with his grandmother and her engagement with Australians, and now his work with Kotra in Melbourne. But I was sitting there before thinking, I wonder what the legacy of those missionaries is. Whether it was sort of like something that's now had its day, and now the Koreans are now looking after themselves, which is sort of partly the case, which is great. But I see there's threads in this tapestry. That today it's such a mature. Well, I mean, not necessarily. I think it's an underdeveloped friendship, but the threads of this tapestry are many, so it's gone beyond just that initial story.
But last a decade, the population of the Korean is growing rapidly in Australia, and not only the resident and also the visitor and overseas student last decade, 1 or 2 decades. So now Korea know about, before everyone knows Sydney, but they never knew about Melbourne, and there is still many people think that Sydney is the capital city of Australia. But now people knowing about the Canberra.
I mean, but that's interesting because I remember in John Osunda train stop, or maybe in Guanamoon, or maybe both, they had posters for Australian tourism, and I just recognise. I mean, I take it for granted how much there is to knowing Australia, but I realised suddenly Koreans know nothing about tourism in Australia outside of maybe Cairns, Sydney, Melbourne, the Great Ocean Road, Ayers Rock. That's probably.
I think it's a.
Oh, that's a generalisation.
Mainly about two things, I guess. It's the American used to be clicker. They call clicker in Europe. Because they go to the Eiffel Tower and take a photo. And it's wherever the memorial building they go and take a photo is the part of their tourism. But now they develop it more enjoying and go a suburb and go for a history.
Yeah, sure.
So, since 1988, Korean was allowed to go overseas free travel.
Yeah, right.
That's why our free travel, overseas traveling history is very short. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah, sure.
They're traveling overseas.
Because it's been a very controlled political administration up until 1988. I mean, it was basically a dictatorship up until 1988. And we take that for granted, you know. But just on that travel, like while I might sort of say, oh, Koreans know very little about Australia, I bet now if I went on to Collins Street and asked 10 Australians to tell me 4 places in Korea, most of them would stop at 2. You know, Seoul and Busan. That's about it.
That's about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because of the distance, I guess the distance, and it wasn't cheap. It used to be very expensive.
Yeah.
And but nowadays lots of economic and
sure.
And cheap says everyone can afford, and GNP grow.
Yeah.
And more and more people can afford the overseas travel.
Yeah.
And then still, the people has just a short period of time, and especially also the Korean life is a very busy life.
Yeah.
They get not a long holiday like 4 weeks like Australia.
Right. Yeah.
So within a week they have to travel Australia.
Yeah.
But they want to visit, take a photo in Sydney Opera House.
I love that.
They want to go to Melbourne. They want to go to Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And some of the package tour include New Zealand.
Right.
In 7 days.
Yeah, sure. That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
that's amazing.
But now people more exploring the working holiday.
Yeah.
That kind of program to encourage many youth from Australia, and then they have like a year.
Yeah.
Short is like 3 months, and longest like a year and 2 years.
Wow, it's amazing.
They should explore all around Australia.
Yeah.
So the style of traveling is getting changed.
Yeah. It's really. I find it quite amusing, but also a great way to look at a step in the development of our friendship. This clicker experience, you know. Yeah. Well, Christian, look, it's been really great to meet you and talk.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to staying in touch too. And it's a jingle. Yeah.
Jingle.
Friendship. Yeah.
우정 나무.
Yeah.
Fighting.
Yeah.